Greetings, YouTube. It's your buddy Troy here. Thank you so much for tuning in. In this video, we're going to drop a little former fat guy knowledge on you. We're going to talk about how you can tone up, lose some body fat. And before we get into that, I'd love to hear what's going well for you in the comments. If you're new to the channel, my name's Troy. I'm a former fat guy, and I'm sharing my story with the hopes that it might help someone else. And if you support me in that, you find value in this video, what I would ask is that you take a second to subscribe to my channel, boop that button right there. Doesn't cost you a thing, but it means the world to me. So let's talk about it, guys. On my journey, one of the first places that I looked to for information on working out and getting in shape, right? Those headlines on the magazines, six-pack abs, build bigger arms, right? Build bigger back, stuff like that. I would see these things in magazines. And so I'd get the magazine or whatever, or I would borrow it from my dad, and I would look for sort of like frameworks as far as how to work out in the gym to get in shape. And like my dad would give me examples of things that I could do, and so, other bros that I knew. And so back to the magazine, what you would find in the magazine, right? Like build bigger back would be the headline. And then what you'll find is in the magazine, they'll talk about various exercises. So they would talk about back exercises, right? There's several of them. Typically, like it's going to be a pulling type motion. So a workout for back would be broken up into exercises, which are the various motions, right? Like weighted motions, if we're talking about weightlifting. And then you would, for each exercise, you would perform, right? Like moving the weight once throughout its range of motion. That would be what we would refer to as a repetition, right? So there would be a designated number of reps or repetitions. How many times would you perform that motion, right, for that exercise? So let's say that you would perform a pulling style exercise like a row, right? So the exercise is a row. Repetitions is how many times you did that row, right, before you set the weight down. You pick it up, you do 10 of them, that's 10 repetitions. Then you set it down. Now you would take a rest period. You would catch your breath, or you would set a timer and you would wait for a certain amount of time, and then you would go back to doing it again. So what we can sort of like break that all up into is exercise, repetitions, and then sets. So you may have a certain exercise that you perform 10 repetitions of, and that's one set. And then you would do that. Let's say the prescription would be 3 sets of this exercise for this many reps. And the point I'm trying to make through all this is that you would go into the gym as a beginner with this written down, and you would follow this. And there would be typically what's referred to as a split, which means you cover your bases throughout your body. Like, for example, my split is I do push, pull, legs. So I go to the gym one day, I do all pushing exercises. The next day I come back, I do all pulling exercises. And then finally, the next day I come, I do all legs. And then if I make it back to the gym the next day, I'm back to push. But for someone who's following a prescribed plan, right, you're just going off of what the paper tells you. And that's great. And that's a good place to be for a beginner. But there's a lot of things that paper doesn't tell you that I thought we could talk about in this video because they're very important. I get a lot of people that come to me, I hate to say frustrated, but people feel like they're trying hard in the gym and they're not seeing the results that they would like to see in terms of toning up. And for me on my weight loss journey, guys, I got to tell you, weightlifting has been very instrumental in avoiding what they call skinny fat, because as a person who's heavier, when you begin to lose weight, what I found is that my skin became a lot more like loose. So it was almost like I felt like I looked worse because of all of the loose skin that I had. And when I did strengthening exercises, I noticed that it really helped to tighten up my skin. And I'm not a doctor, but I feel like the metabolic benefits are worth it, worth doing the weightlifting, and for me, the mental health benefits as well. It's really so important for me in terms of feeling good, just like about myself and about being. When I lift weights, there's something about that nourishes my spirit. So weightlifting isn't for everyone, and that's okay. But if you're considering lifting weights, or if you're doing that and you're not getting the results that you feel like you should be getting, it might be because one of these things that we're about to talk about. Now, exercises, reps, and sets. Let's put that aside for a little bit. All right, all of that stuff is very concrete. We could refer to that as like the math. What we're going to talk about now is like the mindset stuff, the abstract stuff. But it's very important, and it's often not talked about. So, mind-muscle connection. The mind-muscle connection. Being able to direct your attention or consciousness into the muscle that you're trying to work. So in other words, pretend like you're like most people can contract like their bicep muscles, right? So now imagine in your mind contracting your bicep muscle, right? And what that feels like. Now, pick up a weight and try to move that weight through a range of motion while directing all of your conscious attention into that muscle and really making sure that that's where your focus is. Not on your shopping list or, even like the song that's playing. Or it's okay to use that stuff, right? It's okay to use things without going down a rabbit hole and getting off the topic of mind-muscle connection. What we're really trying to do is direct all of our focused energy and attention into the muscle. Really, even if it feels uncomfortable, sit with that, get in touch with that. Really, really notice what that feels like and stay there and focus on it. And really, if you're moving a weight, the idea shouldn't be just to get the weight to move. Although that's great, congratulations. On a more advanced level, what we really want to be focusing on is our own muscle and how that feels. And we're just kind of using a weight as a prop, right, to sort of to help us in this process. So maybe don't focus on the weight so much. Really try to focus on that mind-muscle connection. Direct your attention into that muscle. Focus on it. Because there are some muscles probably that are kind of hard to contract, right? Like if I think about, as I'm sitting here right now, if I think about trying to contract my back muscles, for example, I'm like, right? Like how would I do that? But by using weight, we can sort of learn how to do that, and really focusing on that during the exercise is key, and it's overlooked. Next, there's something that guys will refer to as a pump. And what that is blood rushing to the muscle that's being worked. And it fills the muscle with blood and fluid. It causes some temporary, not bad inflammation. And it feels almost like a balloon filling up, right? So that's referring to a muscle that has been pumped. And the pump, it can help us develop that mind-muscle connection, because that sensation, we can feel that, and it's kind of like, oh, if we sit with that for a little bit and get in touch with that feeling and where that is, maybe play with that a little bit, we can sometimes learn how to contract certain muscles that we couldn't otherwise. And it helps us develop that neural pathway of the mind-muscle connection between our brain and the muscle that's pumped. And the cool thing about a pump is that it's kind of like a preview of what your physique will look like eventually with like repeated training. So it's kind of neat. Typically, like if you keep training, then eventually your cold state will look like your pumped state, in time. So it's kind of neat to sort of get like a snapshot of what that might look like. But without getting off topic, the pump is important because that feeling is blood that's full of nutrients. So the nutrient-rich blood is rushing to the area, which helps with repair. And also that feeling of more volume that's occurring, that volumization effect over time, it can help you grow. And like I said, if you're trying to get jacked, so to speak, mind muscle connection, learning how to develop that pump, and just getting in touch with what that feels like, how to sort of cultivate it, how to sort of sit in that moment. And it's something that doesn't last forever, you know. So you gotta get in touch with these concepts in a way that feels right for you. Next, rest between sets. CrossFit guys, love them. They're jacked, right? And they don't have a whole lot of time between sets. But here's what I'll say: that style of working out, where you go right from one thing right into the next thing, very intense, very minimal rest between sets, that can sometimes hold you back in terms of making progress in strength and muscular development. Everyone is different, and some people thrive under that style of workout routine. I, however, do not. And I notice a lot of bros who would like to be more muscular. I see them working so hard in the gym, and they're holding themselves back because of the fact that they're not taking enough time in between sets. And what's happening is they're not working out with enough intensity. They feel like they are because they're tired. But the thing about getting tired is that you can take someone who's really good at something, top notch, get that person tired, and then have them perform that thing that they're typically good at. And what we find is that they're no longer good at it. If you want to make someone not good at something, get them tired first and then have them do it. So in terms of like the gym and working out, for us, getting jacked, some people would say that strength is a skill. I would agree with them. And it's typically not good to practice skills when you're tired. So like for me, I like to take 3 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes. I feel like when I take enough time to recover between my sets, right, then I'm able to get more reps. I'm able to attack that set with more ferocity, to really be able to focus my attention, my consciousness, that mind-muscle connection. And I just noticed that my body responds better when I'm doing that. I feel like I hold myself back when I don't take enough rest time between sets because I'm not attacking the weights with as much intensity as I could be otherwise. And what that might mean is that I'm not lifting enough weight. Be careful in terms of comparing, right, like amounts of weight, because what might be a lot for me or what might be a lot for you, it might be a different number. So be careful in terms of comparing yourself to other people. But again, if you're tired when you go into your next set, sometimes you could be doing a weight that is far less than anywhere near the amount of weight that you could be doing if you were going into that set a little bit more well recovered. So play with that, see what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Finally, tempo. Right? When you get the workout from the magazine, they typically don't mention tempo. And tempo, think of it as like how fast, right, you perform the exercise. Tempo could be like the beat in a song. But in terms of like lifting weights, you could lift a weight real slow, right? That's one way to do it. Or you could lift a weight real fast. And some people, believe it or not, their muscles respond well to both of those sort of styles. So a lot of strength guys, what they'll do is they'll have a strength day where they lift heavy weights. And what you might find is that when you're lifting a heavy weight, it kind of slows you down a little bit. You're like, you're really trying to push the weight, and the weight ends up going slow. But if you use a weight that's light for you, then you can move the weight through the range of motion really quick. And finding an approach that uses both of those sort of techniques is what most guys find to be beneficial. So consider tempo, find a tempo that works for you and that makes sense for the weight that you're using. Now, in terms of tempo, I did talk about range of motion, and what I want you to be careful of is proper range of motion is what feels right for you. It's not what looks right for me. And you'll get a lot of this. The gym community is great typically, but sometimes you will get people who are critical of your form. They'll say, oh, well, you're really not going through a proper range of motion there on that. And, thanks for the feedback, but what you want to do is you want to be in touch with your body, do something that feels right for you. There's nothing wrong with what they call partial reps or pulse reps. There's ways to incorporate them where the weight is not moving through an entire range of motion, and you're still getting benefit in terms of activating those fast twitch fibers, getting that pump, getting that mind muscle, getting comfortable with sitting in that uncomfortable feeling when the lactic acid is burning in the muscle, but you're able to just still keep going through a few more. You could call them forced reps, right? So range of motion is what feels right for you. So feel free to experiment with different sort of tempo, how fast you're moving the weight, range of motion, right? How far you're moving it. Maybe you just want to stay in that range where you're just kind of contracting the muscle through a small range of motion, but where you're really feeling that pump, you're really feeling that burn, and you're really just sitting in that feeling and focusing on that. And if you do that, and if you learn to love to do that, that's how you get jacked. Hope you found value in this video. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.